If elected, this will be Colombia's first indigenous woman as vice president. Yet, we got ignorant people saying like this.
Puede ser indígena, pluriétnica, multicultural, blanca, negra, color zapote, pero no tiene la formación académica para este cargo, ni un bachillerato.
This is Aida Quilque, one of Colombia's most important indigenous leaders who has spent decades of her life defending indigenous land rights, autonomy, and peace. And to say she has no right to be runner-up for vice president because she doesn't have the proper education to do so is straight up false. So let's take a look at her life and her political credentials while we're at it. Aida is from the Nasa community, one of Colombia's biggest indigenous communities located in the department of Cauca. She's a traditional authority of her reservation, counselor of the Regional Indigenous Council of Cauca, counselor of the National Indigenous Organization of Colombia. In 2022, she was elected Senator of Colombia for the Special Indigenous Constituency, making her one of the first indigenous women to reach Colombian Congress. She's part of the Mesa Nacional de Víctimas, or the National Victims Table, where she advocates for reparations to indigenous people and communities who have been affected by the armed conflict. And she's a coordinator of a health and care program in her community, has dialogued with armed groups like FARC, has denounced persecutions, death threats, and attacks against other indigenous leaders and herself, and has also encouraged other women to politically take part in their communities. So, 22 years of political experience under her belt, yet she ain't qualified to be a vice president. Why? This comment seems a little bit more than just coverted classism. It's straight up racist. When people say that Aida isn't qualified because she doesn't have the right education, we need to remember something. Indigenous people in Colombia were historically denied access to universities, to education, and to political power. So when indigenous leaders finally enter those spaces and are told that they don't belong, that conversation isn't just about credentials or not having finished a high school diploma. It reflects a deeper history of racism and exclusion. For example, Manuel Quintín Lamé, also NASA, was an important indigenous resistant leader in Colombia in the early 1900s. He organized indigenous communities to reclaim land taken by elites and was persecuted for it. Today, Quilque's political opponent Paloma Valencia comes from the same political family that opposed indigenous movements like Lamé's. Valencia's grandfather, Guillermo León Valencia, tortured and repeatedly imprisoned Lamé for trying to protect their land. So indigenous Afro farming communities fighting for land and representation while elite white families dominate politics is something that's still shaping Colombia today. So honey, when an indigenous woman becomes runner-up for vice president, it is a huge deal for me and for many others. And it's generational healing taking place.